So welcome to Optimizing Co-op Talent in Your Brokerage. I'm Tammy Kim-Newman, a business developer with Co-operative Education, and I'm happy to talk about how students can be used in your brokerage today. So before we get started, we at the University of Waterloo would like to acknowledge that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land promised to the Six Nations that includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized within our Indigenous Initiatives Office. So today we're going to review what is cooperative education, how you can attract talent, how to hire a student, funding opportunities available to you as a brokerage, how we can help, and some time for some Q&A at the very end. So what is co-op? Co-op is an educational model that combines academic studies with paid industry work experience. So every university or college may offer their own version of how co-op works in their institution. Specifically at Waterloo, we have a very unique 4-month model. So our students often do 4 months of academic studies at school, and then they'll go out into industry for 4 months of paid work experience, full-time hours. Then they'll go back to school for 4 months, and then they'll go back out into industry. And this allows our students to graduate with up to 2 years of full-time work experience, which is fantastic, and really helps prepare them so that they can enter the industry fully prepared and ready to start full-time work. So why should you hire top student talent into your organization? Well, first of all, they offer innovative and adaptable perspectives. Our research has shown that students between the ages of 18 and 24 share the same traits as entrepreneurs. So it might not come to you as a surprise if you have, teenagers as children. A lot of students within this age range are more willing to try new ideas and potentially take risks, which can often be good in your company when they're, willing to try new ideas and maybe troubleshoot or brainstorm new solutions. There's funding available, which makes it more affordable than ever to hire students. And we'll get into some of that in the later slides. You can hire based on your timeline. So if you have a short-term project where maybe you need some staffing for maybe the next few months, hiring students is a great way to get some of that talent into your company without having to hire a full-time employee and the cost of that full-time salary plus benefits. At the same time, if you know you have ongoing daily tasks or really weekly tasks that you could use some additional support with so that you can kind of offload some of that junior level work and focus on higher level priorities or strategies, having an ongoing co-op student can also help in terms of getting that talent and really getting that extra help into your business. And by posting with our portal, Waterloo Works, it's absolutely free. And this gives you access to Canada's largest co-op talent pool. And in addition, you can also post full-time and new grad positions as well for free. So what makes Waterloo a little bit different? We operate the world's largest co-op program. So we have over 25,000 students enrolled in over 120 different programs. So I would say our philosophy at Waterloo, because we believe so strongly in giving our students work integrated learning and really gaining that industry experience while they're also taking their academic studies, our co-op is built into every academic discipline or program. So whether you need someone to help with maybe some accounting or maybe doing some, insurance analysis, or maybe on the digital marketing side, reaching new clients, we will have students in every facet that you could potentially think about, and they will be scheduled out to work. So we're #1 in Canada for employer-student connections. And we just had a recent report come out by the QS, the Graduate Employability Rankings for 2022. And we've been ranked in the top 5% in terms of our graduate employability in the world, which is great news. And we've also ranked 98.5 out of 100 for our partnerships with employers. And I think a lot of that is due to how we're structured within the University of Waterloo. So we have regionally based teams. So regardless of whether you're in South Central Ontario or if you're in York Region like myself, I'm based in Newmarket, we have staff members all across Ontario to support you and the students that you hire so that you have quick and easy access to staff members to assist with any of your talent needs. So I mentioned this earlier, but at Waterloo, we mostly work on a 4-month model. However, some of our students in their final year of co-op, some of the programs do offer an 8-month work term. And if you have more questions about some of the programs available, you can always let me know, and I'm happy to answer those questions. So because of that 4-month structure in terms of both the academic studies and then the 4-month industry placements, our students often go out in January, May, and September. So for example, the students that are working right now in the fall term, they're going to head back to school in January and then start looking for a May or summer co-op term. And the students that are studying right now, they're going to, again, look for work in January and then be back at school in the summer. So because of this 4-month model, there's always students scheduled out. And so it's a really great way for your company to have year-round support. So one way to think of it is you can hire, let's say, a 12-month contract externally to get like a full-time employee. In that same 12-month period, you could hire 3 co-op students. And that kind of triples your potential for vetting future full-time hires as well. So I often say to employers, a co-op student is not just a 4-month work term, but it's also a 4-month interview. So it's a really great way to kind of vet potential full-time hires at a much lower cost and kind of really get a sense of what are their capabilities and do they fit into your brokerage team and culture. And it really gives you that kind of time to test it out before you make a full-time offer, which is great. And during the pandemic, we've also added some additional flexibility. So for example, if you only have an 8-week full-time hour project and you can't really commit to paying for a student for the full 4-month period, we have that additional flexibility right now. So as long as you can offer 8 to 16 weeks of full-time hours, that would still earn a student a co-op academic credit. So we're very flexible during the pandemic, knowing that employers also have had to adapt and may not be able to commit to the same structure that they've done in the past. So we just want to make sure we give employers as many options as possible, as well as our students. So how to attract top talent into your brokerage? Well, it all starts with a great job description. So in terms of the job title, this is the first thing that students will see. And sometimes we'll see employers try to be a little bit creative, and sometimes we think it's better to keep it simple. So, and instead of calling it a numbers ninja, you can say accounting analyst, and that's okay. It might be easier for the students to search when there's more traditional words being used in the job title. In terms of the location, if you're hybrid or remote right now, that's great to indicate to students because it just lets them know that if they're based in another part of Ontario or country, they could still work for you. If you are requiring in-person work, that's okay too. Some of our employers are still preferring having students come in person. So we just ask that you try to share that information up front, and then that'll help students really prepare themselves. If they're close to your community or your setting, they can just probably commute there. And if they have to maybe relocate from another town, at least they can kind of go into that job interview knowing that. In terms of the job summary, this is your chance to really shine as a brokerage and really share, the impact that you're having in the community around you. So you could talk about the number of clients you serve, or if there's any specialties that you have within your brokerage in terms of the industries you focus on, that would be great information to share. This is your chance to really kind of connect the student candidates and really resonate with their values. So for example, we recommend using you versus I statements. So instead of saying, I want someone who can answer the phone and do administrative work, another way to kind of word that is to say, if you love helping people and if you understand the importance of a client's first interaction, we want to hear from you. So kind of just using that you language, I think speaks through the screen a little bit more easily and really reaches the students' ears. In terms of job responsibilities, we definitely encourage transparency. If you believe that half of the work might really be some of that administrative support, it's okay. Just be honest about, that they might be handling some of the phone and email inquiries. Maybe it's managing social media accounts. We just say, lay it all out there so that students can better prepare themselves and come prepared with good questions to the interview, especially if they have any clarifying questions. In terms of the job responsibilities, this is again where you can just be transparent about everything that you're expecting the students to do. And then that kind of ties into the skill requirements. So we ask that you try to separate the must-haves versus the nice-to-have. So really thinking about, do you really need a candidate to have, 3 years of X skill set? Or do you just need their willingness to learn it as well and to be trained on it? So we often find with employers, they're more than happy to teach some of like the technical or task-oriented options for the duties. And I find that really what can make the difference in a great candidate is, I guess, their willingness to learn and sort of their trainability and attitude, right? Are they open-minded to learning new tasks? And are they willing to see kind of the greater picture and how the smaller tasks they might be doing might contribute to the bigger picture of the brokerage? And then when we look at compensation and benefits, we encourage you to add whatever details you might have. So it doesn't always have to necessarily be the salary itself, but you could talk about some of the company perks. So for example, some employers might consider remote work right now a benefit or a potential perk, or that flexibility. If you are operating in person right now and you have team lunches, socially distanced on Fridays or things like that, or you occasionally do team building activities or socials, you can incorporate that as well. Even something as simple as just networking and having that professional development opportunity to learn from all the members within your brokerage can be a really big asset to students. So we did an analysis of 37,000 job postings over a 3-year period. And we did it across all industries and locations so that it wouldn't be necessarily biased towards any one sector. And we found that these 6 factors led to a higher number of job applications. So the 6 categories are company culture, some of the programming languages or the technical kind of jargon that the students will be picking up, food and games, employer values, compensation, and in career development. So we find that the more you can really reiterate the impact that students will have in your brokerage, that can really make a difference to students. So that's why in an earlier slide I talked about, really think about your community and the number of people you're serving and the potential reach of your brokerage and the potential of that market value. And I think that can really resonate with students. That willingness to help people with some of these difficult decisions. We know that it's not easy decisions sometimes for your clients to make. And so there's a real opportunity for students to have an impact and give good customer service. Talk about your employer values. So if there's certain cultural values you have as a team, definitely demonstrate that as well. And again, some of those other categories are more about some of the maybe more social or fun aspects of works, which we know may have changed during the pandemic as well. So you can definitely make those tweaks as they fit into this kind of new world of work that we're operating in. And then career development. This is a chance to maybe say if you have, for example, any previous students that have been in your brokerage and have been able to come back full time, or maybe it's just letting candidates know that there is growth in the brokerage or there are opportunities to come back and to continue learning. So how can a student help you with your brokerage? So we did an analysis of the insurance sector, both in terms of carriers and brokerages, and we found that these were the top 6 roles overall. And there are definitely other endless opportunities in terms of what the students can do, but I just wanted to at least highlight the top 6 in case any of these interested you on the call right now. So if you need assistance with sort of on the actuarial side in terms of doing any risk analysis or preparation of rate filings, if you need more technical support in terms of software engineering or web development, students can help with designing and adhering to any of the coding standards and business requirements for your company. They can also look at developing and doing some testing of scripts. On the bottom half, if you need more sort of operational support in terms of maybe project management, students can help with developing, improving, or implementing new tools or processes to help with program delivery. We've had students employed in underwriting positions where they can provide support in terms of operational sales and event planning initiatives. And something that's become more popular, I find over the years, is hiring sort of business or data analysts, because we know there's a lot more information now to analyze to help drive business decisions. So some of the things that students can do for your brokerage is maybe doing some daily, weekly, or quarterly reporting for you and kind of presenting that data. And they can also maybe help with doing some market research and competitive analysis to see what maybe other brokerages are doing, or maybe trying to work into that sales and business development side in terms of new clients you potentially could be reaching. As well, during the pandemic, we know that a lot of the work that we have done has moved online and gone digital. And so we had to adapt very quickly as a university last year as well, because we have just a huge talent pool of students every term going out. And so we were very fortunate that we were able to partner with a few industry leaders and provide a suite of free digital courses to our students in all academic disciplines, because we believe whether you're on a more technical program or you're more on the humanities side, regardless of where you are, everyone is kind of working in some capacity online now. So some of the courses that we give free access to our students are related to digital marketing, web design, video marketing, problem solving, sales skills, e-commerce, and cybersecurity. So if you are curious about hiring anyone into your brokerage with some of those skill sets, please let us know. And this is something we could always work into your job description, that maybe there's an expectation that students before they enter your workplace may have taken some of these courses, or there's other things we can add to the job posting to make those requirements clear. So now the process side in terms of how to hire from Waterloo. Well, we just want you to first, the first step is really you coming to the session and just kind of getting ready and getting warmed up to the idea of having a student. So some of the things you'll want to think about are, what are the job responsibilities that the student will do? Who will supervise and manage the student? In terms of our expectations as a university, we want to make sure you can provide a safe environment to the student that, is available in terms of learning and teaching and, kind of that patience with some training on some level for our students to kind of get warmed up to the brokerage and understand some of the tasks expected of them. We ask that a supervisor be able to provide some regular feedback, and this may range or differ from student to student. So some employers may like to have, weekly or biweekly touch points with the students. It might start more heavily in the beginning, and then as you really see a student's capabilities, you might be able to have more monthly one-on-one meetings. So we just want you to consider like the frequency and cadence of feedback you can share with students. We do require a final performance evaluation at the end of the co-op term. So we will send you an email. It's very straightforward. You'll rank a student, from a number of characteristics. It's just a numerical rating that you kind of tick off for each different skill set. And then at the end of the term, you give an overall rating to the student. And this is viewable to future employers when they are continuing their job search. So it's nice because our students have intrinsic value in terms of doing well at work, but there's that extrinsic value as well, and that they want to perform well. They want to get a high evaluation rating so that they'll hopefully be more successful with future job searches as well. So I kind of just reviewed some of that information in terms of getting ready. The one thing I didn't cover was adding students to payroll. So that would be an expectation that, again, these opportunities are paid in full-time hours. So you would just have to make sure that in terms of that paperwork that you set that up for the student. In terms of registering posting, I can do a quick walkthrough at the end of the presentation, but it's very simple. You just have to register for a free account for our internal job posting system. There's no cost to it. You would just submit your job posting, and we're here as a service team to help provide support if you need it. Students apply, and then we'll let you know after 2 business days once the application is down, and then you can start to review your applications, and you can select an interview date and time. And so in terms of the actual interview process, again, it's very simple in our system. You can switch their status to selected for interview, and then you can indicate if you want to do a phone interview or if you prefer a webcam. We have a really neat feature available through our job portal system called the integrated webcam interview system, where you can actually just log into a web browser link, and we'll have set up all the details for you. And then you can decide if you actually want to turn on the video or just use kind of the audio feature of the browser to do the webcam interview. So we can make things as easy as possible for you if you need that extra support. Something that's very unique, I would say, to Waterloo system is after you interview candidates, you have to go through a ranking process. So we ideally recommend for every one job opening you have, maybe interviewing about 6 to 8 candidates, so that gives you enough options and flexibility. And then after you do your interviews, we ask you to rank the student. So the students will also have an opportunity to rank you back. So what I recommend to employers is, your first top choice that like really blew you away, rank them number 1, and that indicates a very clear offer to that student. If you're happy with all the other candidates, my general tip is just rank everyone else a 2. And then that way, when the students rank employers back, it's all based on a matching algorithm to get the lowest sum. So I sometimes have seen new employers that aren't as familiar with their ranking by accident. They'll rank students, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they might not match up with the student because maybe on the student side, they ranked you a number 2, but if you rank them a number 6, that's a much higher number. So you might not get matched up in terms of that lowest sum. So we really encourage you to rank 1s and 2s, maybe into 3s if you really have to differentiate. And then once the employers have ranked and the students have ranked, we kind of do that process and we run those results. And then we will email the employers to let you know if you've got selected for a match, and hopefully you will have. And if for some reason something happened and you didn't match up with the candidate, then we'll work with you right away to get that job reposted so that you can still find another great candidate in time. And then once you've matched with the student, we always encourage the employer and the student to connect directly and discuss some of those finer details, such as the start and end date, the name of the supervisor, the salary, dress code, and any of the work term expectations. And then once the student actually starts work, we ask you to provide an orientation to help the student transition into the position. You can set expectations and goals, especially if the role is remote or hybrid. You might want to make it very clear in terms of, what are the work hours? Is it from 9 to 5 and the student's expected to be there that whole time? Or does your brokerage operate more on core hours? Everyone's expected to be online 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we expect you to make up those hours in whatever capacity makes sense for you. So you just want to lay the expectations very clearly with your new hire. And again, setting regular meetings to give feedback. We encourage a midterm review. So if you were hiring a winter student for January to April, we would recommend maybe at the end of February, just have a quick touch point with the student, let them know how they're doing. It's your chance to kind of reiterate any great things that they're doing. And if there's any areas where you need some improvement, that's a great chance to give them that feedback early so that they have time to implement that feedback and make some changes and improve their productivity. And then at the end of the term, doing that final evaluation. So we just wanted to include some extra remote tips because we know some companies right now are operating in a remote or hybrid option. And I think some of these may apply to in-person work terms as well. So again, just really communicating clearly the guidelines and expectations, offering a clear system for tracking and managing work. So when you're in person, it might be easier to touch base and see kind of what students are working on. While you're remote, you can consider things like if you use Microsoft Suite products, you might want to consider Teams, for example. There's a task planner built into the MS Teams where you can assign tasks to students and then they can indicate when they've completed them. And that's a great way to just virtually keep an eye on kind of the progress of their work without having to always email or phone them to kind of see where things are at in terms of status updates. Providing reliable technology and resources. So, just making sure you want to make sure that the students have their own laptop or equipment. Some companies, if they're large enough, may decide to offer some of that tech equipment to make sure it kind of meets their business needs. So you can work that out with the candidates directly. And again, you'd probably expect that the student would have reliable internet access. So those are things you just might want to double check even as early as the interview process. Ensuring leadership visibility and communication. So we know that for at least the remote or hybrid options, students may not bump into the founders or the owners of the companies as often. They may not get to see them as much when it's a remote work environment. So just finding other ways to keep the students in the loop. So maybe it's just adding them to the email list so that at least they can see some of the communications going out from leadership. And number 5, considering new ways to unify the team. So again, thinking of those social interactions that may be more difficult in a remote or hybrid workplace. So for example, in the in-person environment, our students always appreciate those moments when they can take a coffee break or just sit down in like the lunchroom, and really get to know some of their colleagues informally and kind of have those chit chats about kind of their university experience so far and some of the industry experience that they can pick up from yourself and some of your team members. And some of that can be harder to do in a remote workplace. So finding other ways to be creative So for example, on our team, we also hire co-op students. So in the past, we've done monthly, 30-minute virtual socials where we can just come on screen and just chat about how things are going. And a lot of the times we'll actually ask the co-op students to organize that and actually let them kind of take that on as a little event for them to lead and manage. So some examples have been trivia. So past students have organized like a theme trivia event where you can just kind of participate with your laptop or phone, and there might be just a fun prize in terms of a title, or I guess if you're more serious about prizes, you could always actually have a physical, tangible prize as well. So there's different ways you can be creative, but if you need ideas, definitely let us know. We can always discuss how to engage your hires remotely. And then funding resources. So again, between some of these subsidies and tax credits available, it's really affordable right now to hire talent. So we'll definitely dive in. So before we get there, sometimes our employers ask, well, what does it cost to hire a student? What is kind of the going rate right now? And it really depends on the student's program and also their level of experience. So we would obviously expect a senior student to probably have higher salary expectations because they, again, might have that 20 months of full-time work experience already built up. So we can send you a link after the presentation, but this is kind of a general chart, and we have this published on our website where we break down the average salary earnings based on their, again, work term levels. So again, some of our programs have up to 6 co-op terms. So you'll notice that on the junior side, students that are on their first and second work term, on average, maybe I'd say the average pay rate might be around the $18 mark. Again, it kind of varies depending on the program. From a legal perspective, we just expect minimum wage, which is $14.35 right now. So, but it's a lot of our employers like to know what other competitors are paying so that if there is room for them to match that, they like to kind of be within that pay range. We find that, again, as our students move into their more intermediate work terms, maybe their third or fourth work term, again, can vary program to program, but might get into that 20 to 22 maybe range. And then again, depending on the program that you're hiring from, for example, engineering, math, there's very high demand for some of our technical expertise that our students have. So we'll see that average pay range maybe go up to maybe that $28, $30 mark per hour. So again, there's no pressure for employers to match these. Again, from a legal perspective, we just expect minimum wage per hour, but we like to share this information so that you can at least see what maybe other competitors are roughly paying. So the Student Work Placement Program, SWPP, this is a federal wage subsidy program. And right now during the pandemic, the delivery partners, or several of them, they are offering up to 75% of a student's wages to be covered. And it's up to a maximum of $7,500. So for example, let's say if you were to hire a student for $18 per hour for a full, 16-week, 4-month work term, normally the total just comes over to $10,000. And if you were able to apply for the SWPP funding and get approved, your cost could be reduced down to just over $2,500. So it really makes a big difference when you start thinking about hiring some of the student talent versus maybe full-time contract or permanent hires. So in terms of eligibility, they may differ slightly between different delivery partners, but for the most part, there's a lot of consistency. So for example, most of the partners will require that you're a registered Canadian business or organization, and they do require you to be able to have financial capacity to pay the student upfront. So with the SWPP funding, you often have to have a student hired already before you get approved for the funding. But that approval really is, for a number of months because they will need that final pay stub. So for example, if you're hiring a winter student, whatever the last pay stub would be in April, you would have to send that over to the delivery partner, and then they can calculate the 75% for you. And then they would work at processing that payment. So my husband runs a small business, and they rely on the SWPP to hire students every term. And he said realistically, it takes about 4 to 6 months after the co-op term is done to get that funding. It is first come, first serve. So, we encourage you to kind of start looking into the funding now, and you could start your application, but you won't really get to start that approval process until you've hired a student. And on the student side, there is some eligibility restrictions as well. So unfortunately, right now, it's not open to international students. So right now, the students that are eligible would have to be Canadian citizen, a permanent resident, or be under the Immigration and Refugee Protection Act. And they would have to be a registered student. So that part, would be taken care of by advertising to our students. And they can't be an immediate family member for some of the delivery partners. So if for a chance, if you are on this call because you're looking for a co-op opportunity for your own son or daughter, just let us know. And there might be other options we could look at to kind of help them in terms of job opportunities. And some additional funding opportunities that exist. There's a provincial cooperative education tax credit. So this is 25 to 30%, again, of eligible expenditures, which includes the student's salaries. And this applies regardless of whether you hire a domestic or international student, and it's up to a maximum of $3,000. So that's another great perk that you can have access to by hiring our students. On our website, we have a list of different funding resources available. So there are other resources such as MyTax. There's additional section on funding for small businesses, and we do link to research grants as well if that is something that interests you at all. So I'll make sure to send that link in a follow-up post-event email. So how we can help. That's a picture of some of our service team members. So myself as a business developer here to kind of help get you started in the process and kind of figure out what your needs are and maybe help you if you need any assistance with the job description or those early stages. Once you register and get into our system and post a position, you're set up with an account manager. So you have your own service team of a dedicated account manager. Will help you with kind of the funding or talent strategy related questions. You'll also have an account coordinator who can help you with the job posting and interview side of things if you have any questions about how to structure those items. And then you also have a student advisor. So for any student that you hire, we have a staff member that is connected to that student at your brokerage. So if you ever had any questions about the student, about how to engage them, or if you this rarely happens, but if you ever ran into any issues, you have a dedicated person to kind of help you out and go to if you have any questions. And so again, just a quick overview of how we can help. We can discuss your talent needs, we can help you create job descriptions, we can help you navigate funding opportunities, we can discuss how you can market your brand on campus. If you're just getting started into this world of co-op student hiring, we're happy to help you with that strategy. If you're looking for more research in terms of next generation of talent and some of those insights, we also have access to that information for you. And again, we'll just help with the overall hiring process. And that's my contact information so that if you have any immediate questions after the session, you can always follow up by phone or email, and I'm always happy to help you. And you can always visit our website as well. And I'll make sure to reiterate this information in a follow-up post-event email as well. So thank you so much for that. That's the bulk of the presentation there. So maybe I'll just hop over to the chat. I don't know if there's any questions. It doesn't look like there's any questions right now. Thanks, Amanda, for posting some of those links in the chat. Okay. So it doesn't look like there's any questions. So what I'll maybe do is I'll maybe just show the job portal system just to show what it looks like in case anyone is curious to see what it looks like. Just thank you for your patience kind of while I explore just getting this up and running. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see this okay. But when you go to our main job portal site, this is kind of what the kind of website looks like, and you would just log in as an employer. And then once you're in our job portal system, this is what your dashboard would look like. So you can see, kind of just lets you know if you have, if there's any general messages or anything important, we would update it here. And it kind of lets you know that there's contact information or links in terms of reaching out to staff members. You can send a message if you have an immediate question. And then if you have previous job postings, they would be under this tab. And you can see, again, interview related information. And then once you've hired students, their information would be here as well. So let's say you're interested in getting started and posting a co-op job. So you would just go to Hire Waterloo Co-op and jobs applications. A second load. And you can see again if there's any previous history you've had with job posting. So I just entered a fake job posting there as a data analyst, and that's in there. But you could just click post a job. And then it's going to let you know again, if you want to post a brand new position, if this is your first time hiring from us, then you'd want to click on that blue button. If you, let's say, hire this time around, and let's say like next year you want to hire again, the nice thing is we have your information saved. So if you get used to kind of that continuous hiring and you just steadily always want maybe, let's say, general office administration support position, or if you always want some sort of business or data analyst in your company, it's nice because you just have to hit repost and you don't really have to make any changes, which is nice. But I'll show you how easy it is. So let's say if you were to post a new job, and again, we can help on the staff side if you need assistance, maybe drafting a job description, we can send you templates. So for example, those top 6 job descriptions I talked about in our presentation, I have a Word document with some sample postings already saved. So you can easily just kind of copy and paste it and tweak it to fit your needs. We're just going to copy that over. And we're going to select it for winter. So let's say we want to hire a business analyst. And let's say when we want to hire a junior student. Let's say we want to make this, we'll just say a professional occupation role. And let's say you're looking for maybe a junior student because maybe you're trying to keep the pay scale on the lower side, under $20, then we might recommend more on the junior level. So depending where you're based, so for myself, I'm based in Newmarket, so I'm in York region, so I'll select that. And then it kind of, again, pre-populates, so I set up a fake account with the University of Waterloo, so it just kind of pre-populated that information from your account, which is nice, so you don't have to type everything from scratch. So job summary. So I just copied and pasted from that actual Word document. So again, if you need assistance with getting started with the job description, we can help. So you would just have to maybe switch over the company name and some of those finer details. So let's say job responsibilities for a business analyst. They're really going to help with interpreting kind of data, helping with maybe some reporting. So I'm just going to copy that information. I'm going to hit that little paste button. Sometimes the formatting can be a little interesting, so I always like to use that paste option. Make it easy. And let's say if you want to make a bullet point, make it a little bit easier to view, we'll just click that button. And then, so this was just a sample posting to say, the help with reporting, the help with collecting and understanding data and monitoring maybe some of the traffic or information about your business and creating some business models. So in terms of required skills for this, fake job description, let's say you want them to have experience with Excel and Microsoft Word and some of those options. We'll just go down to the required skills section, click paste. And again, if you need any assistance, we're always happy to help. We want to make this as easy as a process for you. And then transportation and housing. I think I didn't cover this in the presentation, but if you're in a major urban city, then sometimes I might encourage employers to include what bus routes they're near. So, major, or maybe I'll say, public transit routes include, I don't know, the number 11 bus, wherever your city is. And if you're located maybe in a more rural area or a city or town where you think it might be harder to get access to, and you think the students ideally would have their own method of transportation, then you can indicate that as well. Located in a more rural area, recommend that you have your own transportation. And that kind of leaves it flexible. I don't usually like to say students have to have their own car because maybe they're able to, borrow one from a family member, or maybe there's some other arrangement that students are able to make on their own. So I kind of like to leave it more general, but again, we can give you advice and discuss that if you have very specific location details that you're concerned about. And then again, compensation and benefits. So if you're not sure what you want to pay the students, that's okay. Those are things sometimes employers may figure out through the interview process, depending on what level they want to hire. If you think you have the capacity to pay kind of that average pay range per student, then what some employers will say is, pay is commensurate with level of education and work experience. So that kind of gives them the flexibility to say, okay, if I hire a junior student who's maybe on their first co-op term, I'm going to pay this amount, whatever the average is on our kind of average earnings website. And that gives you the flexibility. If you do really want like a senior student who has a lot of previous experience, then you're able to kind of match that accordingly as well. And this is where our service team can help you in terms of understanding who you target for this job description. There's a lot of academic programs at Waterloo. We don't want you to worry about having to become an expert in, 120 of our programs. We'll take care of that for you. And so what's nice is we have these kind of themes and clusters available. So if you're going to hire more like office admin or business support roles, you could just click business administration. And in the background, that will pull in some of the programs that we think will be most interested in your job position. And as well, sometimes we'll add in very specific programs as well. So for example, I might do arts and business. Maybe you want someone from a math and business background as well that you'd be interested in. So I might tag those two as well. So those are things we can assist you with, so you don't have to worry about exactly knowing who to target. And then you can indicate what documents you would like included. So the nice thing is, if students have had previous work experiences, by clicking off co-op work history, you'll actually see what those students earned on their previous co-op terms. So if it's a junior student that's never done a co-op term yet, then it'll just be blank. But if it's a more senior student, you'll see, did they get excellence or outstandings on their previous work terms? What was the job title? What was the company name? And so you'll see if they maybe had previous experience with other brokerages or within the insurance sector in general. Some employers will require a cover letter. We, I think, leave that optional. I think if you're not too worried about that, I usually say it can make it easier for students if they just have to submit their resume, but I would also understand if you like that extra customization through a cover letter. And again, you can indicate the grade report. So if you're hiring for a certain role and you would like them to maybe have certain grades, or you'd like to see what types of courses they've taken, then you can click off the grade report and that'll be included. And then that's pretty much it. If there's any additional information we haven't covered, you're more than welcome to cover it there. And then you would just submit your posting for approval. And then what would happen is on the staff side, you'll see that it's pending. It would come over to our side and we would review it and just make sure it looks good and follow up with you once it's approved. So that's kind of the walkthrough of how our job portal system works. But again, happy to also do one-on-one tutorials or walkthroughs if it's ever needed. And I'll make sure to maybe send the employer help guide in my follow-up email, so that if you kind of like to work through things step by step, we have that guide that can help you so that you can do this on your own time whenever it works for your schedule. Great. So I'll just take a peek over at the chat. It doesn't look like there's any questions. I'll just open it back up to the crowd if there are any questions you have about maybe the roles that you're interested in hiring for, or if this is like your first time hiring a student and you have some doubts or some things you're not sure about, please either feel free to let us know right now, or again, I'll follow up through email afterwards. So you're more than welcome to set up an email or call with me as well. Maybe I'll just give it one more minute just to see if there's any questions that come in through the chat. But I do thank you in advance so much for coming to this presentation and listening to this information. And it sounds like there must be some talent needs or questions that you're considering. So again, we're so happy to work with you on this and definitely make it as easy and as affordable as possible for you. Okay, fantastic. Okay, no questions have come in. All right, well, thank you so much for joining the presentation today. And we'll definitely be in touch, and we look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.